Hi, we're Cameron and Darcy from SPARC, the Society for Para-Analytics Research and Collaboration. The reason that we do what we do is because we feel that a lot of the efforts in the para community right now are kind of ill-focused on where the attention should be. And so much time and effort is being spent on investigating in the field and collecting evidence. But really what happens is so many teams, that's all they do. And they hoard the evidence. Territorial disputes break out, and not much of what is collected is actually contributing to the advancement of the field. So we felt it was kind of important to have a different focus. If we were going to do this, then to actually take advantage of all the boots that are on the ground already and have everybody kind of come together and collaborate on culminating the evidence, bringing it together and actually having it form some kind of meaning. So we felt it was kind of important, if we were going to do this, to do something that was more collaborative in bringing a lot of the teams together, the ones that are actually passionate about parapsychological investigation. And instead of being a team that steps out there trying to be a leader, because that's never going to work. Too many teams are suspicious, and rightfully so. It's really anybody who would step out, who had the guts to step out and try and be the leader of a movement, is automatically going to be under intense scrutiny. Some of it warranted and most of it not. So we decided that if we created projects, initiatives, and tools that other teams could use to kind of make them collaborate together, indirectly and directly, that would definitely probably help the field as a whole lot more. So we've kind of made that our mission.
I've been investigating paranormal phenomena since 2009.
And I've been kind of immersed in my own self-study for probably over 30 years in this area. It's just always been a fascination of mine.
And it's kind of funny how we came together.
Yeah, it's a very Mulder, Scully type of model going on. She's more into the science-based. I'm more into the metaphysics and occult and demonology side. And sometimes when I kind of get out there, she grounds me. And I kind of open up her mind to a lot of different perspectives as well. So do we argue? Oh yeah. Yeah, we have some arguments for sure. But I think that's kind of what makes us strong, in that we do complement each other well in this field of study, just because we have our own viewpoints and our own ideas on how things should be done or what's valid in this field. So that is kind of one of our strengths, but we definitely have debates about them, which I think is healthy. I think if your entire team was in agreement all the time, I don't think that you're talking enough, probably.
I'm sorry that we fight. I hate it when you're wrong.
I love it. I love it when we fight. We actually probably come out more with more information on the back end of it and make more of a solid team because of it than we do on not speaking about things that upset us about how SPARC should be run. Because yeah, we approach SPARC, even though this is a non-profit endeavor and it's a passion of ours, we treat it like a business. And in some ways, I kind of treat it like a rock band in certain ways. I think having that we're doing a passion, but at the same time we have to understand how it works within the paranormal community, and the outreach and the promotion and being able to talk to individuals and really taking it seriously. It's not a hobby for us. It's definitely not a hobby. I spend more time on this than I do an actual job.
Ditto.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we have other things going on. We got kids, our own kids. and our own lives going on outside of SPARC, but we do spend a lot of time, money, effort, blood, sweat, and tears into this, and it's because we take it seriously.
And the types of tools that we use to investigate and research, it's quite varied. We do use, tools that we feel will yield, the data that we need to look at, but we also use tools that are already there, like science and physics and psychology. Those can be considered tools as well.
Yeah, I think one of the tools that probably isn't used enough is probably your own brain, just using common sense in the field. Sure, it's great to have all the EMF meters and infrared cameras and all those things to assist, but they shouldn't dominate an investigation by any means. They're just tools to help and nudge you in directions that we should be looking. But to rely on those bells and whistles for everything is not going to give you the whole picture. I think when you walk into an investigation and you're not using your intuitive side at the same time as all the technology, I think you're essentially walking into some place with your hand over one eye. Yeah, of course you can get through the investigation, but you lose a lot of perspective and point of view. When you do that, you've lost the depth, I think, of what you're trying to discover. So you need to use both at the same time. The technology has certain things that we're not able to do, obviously. It's good for cataloging and documenting and for scrutinizing specific areas of what we're doing, but it's not supposed to dominate, and it can't be the end-all be-all of finding the answers in the field. So using your intuitive abilities is very, very important, and unfortunately a lot of teams don't do that. I think more the empathetic side does, but on their end they're also completely ignoring the protocols and the things that need to be done to document and scrutinize certain areas. It can't be one eye or the other. It's got to be both at the same time in order to give yourself that depth that's required for the field. I mean, there's challenges not only from team to team, but within the teams themselves. Just the investigator dynamics that happen between people inside the team is just as important, if not more important, I think, than having teams collaborate with each other in the para community. Because if you don't have a solid team that works together, you're not going to be able to work with anybody else. So again, just being honest with yourself, and also making sure that you're picking people that aren't there for the thrill, that aren't there for personal reasons, that could be just as important as anything else in this field, because you can't do it by yourself very easily. There's very few people that have all the necessary skills and resources to adequately investigate a case. You need a lot of different people, a lot of different personality types, and intrinsically in that you're going to have a little bit of drama. In fact, I may even go out on a limb and say that the reason that we have so much dysfunction in the paranormal community is not really between teams. I mean, it is. That's the natural course of it. But I think because of the internal drama and squabbling that happens within a team itself, you get this outward projection that makes it impossible for other teams to work together as well. I mean, just think, if you had a team that worked fabulously together, they'd be more open to work with people outside the team. So it might just be a microcosm, macrocosm type of model happening within the paranormal community. And if we were better about culminating teams together, or I'm sorry, people within teams together that worked well together, we wouldn't have so much dysfunction outside of that family.
I think it's also very important that people educate themselves, and the best way to do that in this field is to read. And when you think you've read enough, you haven't, you need to read some more. To read. And when you think you've read enough, you haven't, you need to read some more.
Most definitely. We constantly have our noses buried in all types of books, whether it is trying our best to understand quantum mechanics, and how it applies to this field, or comparative religion and apologetics, all the way up through, sure, the common paranormal books that are found at the bookstores, or we're scouring through old bookstores finding classic publications of views and perspectives that have kind of been forgotten. So we've found a lot of treasures, within old bookstores, finding things that are 20, 30, 40, even like 100 years old in some cases, of knowledge and viewpoints that are completely different than today's. And while some of it is old and some of it has been supplanted with more accurate information, there have been instances where we find things that we haven't found anywhere else in contemporary publications. So reading is extremely important, and constantly educating yourself on the changes that are happening in this field. Because if you're not looking at it from all aspects, be it science, metaphysical, from a spiritual perspective,
religion,
yeah, you're cutting a huge pie slice out of your knowledge base on what you should be knowing. It's the commonalities between all of these areas. So if you're talking about thousands of year old perspectives on the Akashic records, or you're talking about quantum mechanics or feng shui, there's so many similarities between these perspectives and how they were handled at their time and contemporarily, that to ignore any of them is again, you're leaving a huge chunk out of your knowledge base that you really need to have. Doesn't mean you need to practice it, but to have it available is extremely paramount.
read.
Read. And shut up! Read your books. Isn't that a squirrel that does that?